Great. So can you see what I'm sharing? Let me see your response in the chats. If you're seeing my screen here, can you see my screen? Okay, somebody say we cannot see. Let me know. Can you see it now? Are you able to see what I'm sharing now? I'm waiting for a confirmation, 2-3 people to confirm to me that what I'm sharing you're surely seeing, so that we can proceed. Let me check again if people are in the chats and they're telling me anything. Super saying they're not seeing up to now. Someone is saying yes. Gideon says yes. Okay. Okay. You should be seeing by this time. You should be seeing. So our area of focus today is population and development. And by the end of this, I expect you to have understood or to be in position, want to be in position to explain the meaning of population, the meaning of population distribution. Why do we have distribution disparities in population in many places today? We shall also be talking about population growth, and then we shall be looking at the different population growth patterns and even look at the factors that influence population growth, and then maybe how to contain or how to control population growth so that the population grows sustainably. So we shall be looking at it in that way. Let me again check and see. So have you been able to see what I'm sharing now? Hey, people are saying they are seeing. That is very good. So let me go back and then I share now. Let me go back. I do my sharing so that people can we can proceed. So here, okay. So population. I want people to. What is the meaning of population, by the way? Anyone who can give us what is population? I know you did population in O level, and we are again talking about population. Even in other areas, when you go to the university, they'll again teach about population if you still do geography. So, what is population? Yeah. What do you mean? What do you understand by the word population? Yes. Anyone who is ready to give us the meaning of population and then proceed?
Population is the way how people are spread in an area.
Edgar, how are you? Is that Edgar or this is Philemon?
This is Philemon.
Yeah, Philemon. You spoke
Mm.
like Edgar today. Good.
Nah, Edgar acts like a girl.
Yeah, Philemon. Did you have to go all that far? Okay, fine. It's true. Population is the number of people in an area. Yes, that is very true. That's the meaning of population. Angela, Angela, you have a different view about the meaning of population.
No, it's kind of the same.
Mm.
Population is the total number of people in an area.
The population is the total number of people in a place. Can be in a village, can be in a district, can be in a country. Yeah, that is the meaning of population. So why do we even have to study about population? Someone asking, kindly inquiring, was there a lesson before this? No, there wasn't a lesson before this. All our lessons start at 2. So this is the first geography lesson. Yes. So population is the number of people living in a place. And it's very important to talk about population because whatever we do it for the population. Whatever you produce, we produce for the people. And therefore, the population determines your market for very many things. So you cannot ignore population if you are looking for development. So let me go here and I go back and I share what I was sharing here. So go here and you see, as you can
Mhm.
see, this side on my right, which could be on your left, that side, you can see the population. Mhm.
Population, population.
Good afternoon. How are you? So the population, we are talking about population in terms of children, in terms of women, uh, in terms of men, in terms of old people. All those are people who make up the population. But you're going to discover that different areas have different population characteristics. For example, you may find that in some places you have a population that is dominated by younger people, especially in developing countries like African countries, South American countries, and some of the Asian countries. Their population is dominated by younger people. Whereas if you look at developed countries, you go to countries like Germany, you go to USA, I think, you go to Japan, their population, unfortunately, is dominated by older people, and therefore their population pyramid, the population pyramid of these two different regions, have different characteristics, and that's why it's important to study population. That's why it's very important for the government to have interest in the population because it guides development, but it also guides planning. It has a bearing on the environment, and that's why we look at population census. Population census is usually done every 10 years. I think the last time we had ours here was in 2024. Our population currently is slightly over 46 million, which is a small one in Africa. You see? So if you look at population distribution, the truth is population distribution varies from place to place. Africa is not as densely populated as some parts of the world. If you look at that map on the left, look at that map that shows the population distribution. That red color shows you areas that are most densely populated. You see, I think it comes out clearly that areas that are densely populated are mainly found in Asia. Talk about India, talk about China and their neighbors. And then USA is also relatively highly or densely populated. And then many parts of Western South America is also densely populated. So the question is why? Why do we see all those disparities in population distribution? Why is it looking like that? Yes? Why do we have disparities in population distribution? Let me go back and I get answers from people. Why is it that India and China have a very big population compared to Uganda that has just 46? You can see Uganda has only 46 million people. India has over 1 billion people. India has over 1 billion people. Even China has over 1 billion. The current population size of the world is slightly over 8 billion, but 2 billion are found in just India and China alone. So, why are those disparities there? Why do we have differences in population size from place to place? If you look at it critically, why is the population size changing, varying? Yes, anybody who has a clear idea? Is it because of climate? Is it
Uh,
because of food? Is it because of what? Yes.
good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Fine. I think I think China and India has got a large population because of their well-developed technology.
Okay, partly because of technology. Let me check in the chats. People are responding. Thank you for your response. I am looking. Some are saying because of several reasons, because of job opportunities. Okay, partly some of them are. Those are some of the reasons. So let's
Yes.
see. Someone else wants to respond. Why do we have population distribution disparities in different parts of the world? Why is it that coastal areas are more densely populated than the interior? Someone is saying because of high fertility of the women. Okay, I think that is more about population growth. Fertility is more about population growth, not distribution. Some people are saying because of the presence of land. Yes, I think here it is mainly because of, let us talk about it in terms of soil. People like to settle in areas that have fertile soil, well drained fertile soils. People settle there. Someone has just given me another response here because of climate. People want to settle in areas that receive adequate rainfall, but also areas where the climate is generally conducive. That explains why. We have many people settled along the coastal areas, also have many people settled along water bodies. We have many people settled in highland areas. The issue is climate, soil there. Someone is saying also because of relief. Yes, relief is also a very important factor because relief will affect your how you're going to establish especially infrastructure. Nobody wants to go and settle in an area where the relief is so unfriendly. So relief also guides population distribution. That is very true. Somebody said vegetation. That's another very good factor. Vegetation also affects distribution, and therefore people want to settle where there is vegetation. Vegetation here, where there is no forest. Somebody has also said government policy, which is also very true. Another factor is human activities, then altitude. Mhm. Altitude also is another very important factor. Okay, political climate. Nobody wants to settle in a place where there is war. Okay, okay, let's see the factors here, these factors here. I hope you're seeing my factors. Look at this other map here that I generated that shows population distribution still. And you realize that still it is related to the other one. Areas that are shaded red, very high population density. You see, areas that are shaded green, here you have sparse population. So if you look at Africa generally, Africa is sparsely populated. Mm. Sparsely, the population in Africa is between low and between moderate to sparse. The population in South America, you can also see it is between moderate to sparse. The population in Asia, let us say in Asia, you see the population is between very high and high. So Asia has the highest population density. Look at the population density of North America. You realize that Canada is not as highly populated as as USA. So USA has a bigger population compared to Canada. That is what it means. If you look at Africa today, look at the population distribution of Africa. That is what it looks like. Yes. Are you able to see that map I'm sharing? You see the map? I need to be very sure. If someone is not seeing the map, then I'll be teaching myself. Yes, are you seeing the map? Somebody saying you can't see the map, really? Okay, let me stop sharing and I share again. So, the map I am sharing is this one. So, you let me know if you are able to see the map that I am sharing. Can you see the map now? You should be in position to see that map of Africa showing population distribution or density across Africa. Can you see it now? Okay. People are saying they are able to see it now. So let me go back and I'll be sharing. So the population distribution in Africa, now this is a more clearer map compared to the other one that had many continents. So see. So the population distribution in Africa is like that. You see, it is between a moderate to sparse. If you look at East Africa is also relatively highly populated. I think the least populated country in Africa, according to this map, now becomes Tanzania. That has a small population density. So that is how the population is in Africa. Now let us see the population distribution in Uganda. That is how Ugandan population is looking like today. That's the distribution of population in Uganda. You can see which area is having the highest population density. You can see. I think it is clearly the central districts of Mukono, Kampala, Luweero, which areas are having the lowest population distribution. I think you can see areas in northern Uganda, Karamoja, and then parts of southwestern Uganda. So my question is, so why is the population distribution of Uganda looking like that? Karamoja region, and then parts of western Uganda in the districts of Kabale, Kisoro. Why are those districts sparsely populated? Yes? Who can give me the reason? Why do we have the population size in Karamoja? The population in Karamoja is very small. The population in Kisoro Kabale is also very small. Why? It is still because of the other factors we talked about.
Like
Yes?
Karamoja has the
Mm,
lowest population because it
mm,
has unfavorable climatic conditions such
mm,
as the semi-arid
mm,
climate, which
mm,
doesn't favor or which discourage settlement and farming
mm.
activity and farming
So,
activity.
yeah, you're right. Very, very, very true. That climate, political instability, someone is saying low level of urbanization, the soil types in some parts of Uganda. So you find people as like settling in areas where the soils are not only fertile, but the soils are also well what? Well drained. So people will not settle in those areas that has poor soils, in those areas that have political instability, in those areas that have no water, in those areas that have no jobs. People will not go and settle there. People want to go and settle in areas where life is easy. That's why you find that Karamojan and then parts of western Uganda is looking like that. So if we come back here, you see the factors we've been talking about. They are there. Factors that influence distribution of population anywhere in the world. You can see climate. When you talk about climate, usually we focus on rainfall and the temperature. How much rainfall does the area receive? What about the seasonality? What about the reliability of the rainfall that is received? You may be receiving rainfall that comes in only one season. That may not be good. People would want to stay in a place where you have rainfall throughout the year. So you don't have a dry season. People would want to settle in such a place if the soils are also what? If the soils are also fertile. And you come there, relief. Nobody wants to settle in a very hilly area, in a mountainous area. People want to settle in areas that are either gently sloping or in places that are generally flat, so that they can do all the activities with ease. They can do mechanization if agriculture is there. They can easily do construction. So life would be easier for them if it is a gently sloping area, and like if the area is hilly. And soil fertility, everybody wants to stay in a place where the soils are fertile, where the soils are well drained, where the soils are deep. Everybody wants to settle in places like that. And that explains why you find many people settled, especially near water bodies, because near water bodies usually find that the soils are deep, well drained, even the climate is is friendly. For example, for the case of Uganda, more people are settled in the districts of Wakiso, Kampala, Mukono, so many people. And that is the reason why. Then availability of water. Water is life. You need water for cleaning. You need water for cooking. You need water for washing. You need water for industry. You need water for domestic and other uses. So, if the water is not there, then settlement becomes hard. And obviously, you're going to find that people cannot settle where there is water easy in short supply. Then vegetation. Everybody wants to settle where there is vegetation because you need the vegetation for firewood, you need the vegetation for construction, and sometimes the vegetation is actually the food that you eat. So where there is no vegetation, it means you cannot do farming, and therefore people don't want to settle in areas where there is no vegetation. People would also want to go play to places where the jobs are there. That explains why you have more people settled. If you talk about all those countries we talked about, like USA, for example, people say that America is the land of dreams. So everybody wants to go to USA. And I think that's why the population is increasingly growing in USA very, very every day and night. Why? Because of job opportunities. But even if you look at it locally here, the population in urban areas is usually bigger compared to the population in rural areas. And the explanation is because we have more job opportunities in the towns. Yes. Then transport and communication. I'll give you a story. One time, when I had just finished school, so I was deployed. I got a job in Gomba. Gomba is after Impigi district. So when I went there, by that time, that place was not only remote, but it was also uh, unbearable to stay. The road was so dusty. So I went there to work. What chased me from there is that there was no telephone network. If you want to call, there was a spot. You have to leave school during maybe break or lunchtime. Go and stand on a certain spot far away from the school and you talk to your person. So I discovered why the people did not want to stay there. Why? Because the telephone network was bad, the communication was bad, the transport was bad. So people would want to stay in places where communication is easy, transport is available, trade is easy, mobility is possible, and therefore you realize that it is also one of the factors that actually affect distribution of population anywhere in the world. Then you have political stability and security. Nobody wants to stay in a place where there is war, where there is security, where there is chaos, where you cannot be sure of where or how you're going to be peaceful. And therefore, people always want to stay in places where there is no political instability, where there is general stability and peace. Then the next one is government policy. How does government policy affect distribution of population, if I may ask? Who can give me a clue about how the government can actually influence population distribution? How can the government influence the distribution of population? Yes, everybody who can give me a clue about the role of government in distribution of population? How does the government come in when we are talking about population distribution? Yes, anybody who has an idea, how can the government influence distribution of population? Yes, okay. Government can sometimes influence distribution of population because government controls land. Government activities that require land, sometimes the government has to gazette places for government use. Like you find places that are gazetted as industrial areas, some areas are gazetted as game parks, some areas are gazetted as forest reserves, some areas are gazetted as places for government use. And therefore, in such places, the government asks people to go and settle elsewhere. For example, if the government discovers maybe there is a mineral in a place, then that becomes a mining and industrial area. So the people would be asked to relocate to another place. So the government actually controls, or the government actually decides where people will stay. That's one. But also there are cases where government comes up with the projects and the government asks people to relocate still. For example, if the government maybe wants to establish a railway line, maybe the government wants to establish a school, the government sometimes want to establish maybe that is the government. So the government people or the government asks people to relocate to other places. And in that case, you find that it's the government now that is dictating and it is guiding distribution of population in that case. So government is also in a way responsible for distribution of population. Then see historical factors. Historical factors like trade routes, maybe like areas where we had the first settlers. For example, if you look at East Africa today, many people have settled in areas where we had the first settlers settling on. For example, look at Nairobi. Nairobi was one of the areas where the whites settled first in Kenya. Kampala is also where the Europeans settled first, and therefore the pattern has remained the same. We also have so many coastal towns along the coast of Africa, East Africa specifically, where many people have continued to settle because such areas were actually settled by the earlier settlers. So
Teacher,
sometimes this,
teacher,
yes,
teacher, what of
right.
historical factors like areas which have historical factors like Kasubi tombs?
Kasubi tombs, yes. Sometimes you
Mm.
may find people settling there, but now those are heritage sites, which sometimes can either guide, attract settlement, or sometimes can actually discourage settlement. So, if, for example, that becomes like Kasubi area, inside the tombs we don't have settlement, but around now, how so many people have who have settled there. But if you look at it in terms of Kampala, Kampala was the place where we had the first shops, the first traders settled around here. So many people have continued to come here for trade because Kampala was initially a trading spot. That is very, very important. So I'm going to give you an activity. I'm going to give you an activity, and then you're going to make for me a guide. Yeah? Let me first give you the activity, then make for me a guide. Then I will later, we shall discuss after. So these are the things I want you to, the questions I want you to answer. Okay. Can you see the question is, Philemon, can you see those questions?
No, teacher, we haven't seen the question.
Okay. Let me reshare. I am resharing. Let me share it again so that you see. Let me share it again here so that you can see the questions. So we are here. We share this window. Can you see it now, Philemon?
Yes, teacher.
You can.
Yes, teacher.
Okay. So I want you to make a guide for me for those questions. Just write your answer. Like for number one, write. If your answer is A, you write A. Then you go to number two. You go to number three. You go to number four. There are 15 questions. Then later, we shall come back and we discuss what are the correct responses there. Read through the questions and only write the answer down. When you're done, you let me know. I scroll. There are 15 questions.
I'm monitoring, seeing 3 questions.
There are more questions down here. Now, I told you there are 15. So you can see number 2, 3, 4. They are there. There are 15 questions here. Okay. Let me know if I can scroll so that we move on and we see what the answers to those questions. Let me scroll to number 5. People see number 5. Number 3, 4, 5. Let me scroll now. People can see number 4, 5, and 6. I think we have seen number 5. We go to number 6 now. Number 6, 7, 8. There. I hope we are progressing very well. Number 7, 8, 9. There. We are left with 6 questions. There are 15. Number 7, 8, 9. Yes. So those have number 8, 9, 10. See number 8, 9, and 10 there. Now I have 9, 10, 11. We are left with 4 questions. Just write the answer, and then we are going to come and see what that means. Okay, we are left now with I think 3 questions. Yeah, from number 12, there are 15 questions. Yes. Number 11, 12, there are now 3 questions left. Okay, let's go to the last page now. 13, 14, 15. Yes, those are the questions. Good. When you're done, I give people 5 minutes to do that, and then you proceed to something else. I think we are almost done now. People should be winding up. People should be winding up seriously. Okay, I think we are now done. We should be done by this time. Right. So we need to go back now. Let's just stop sharing. I hope everybody had done the work. So, who wants to share with us the answers? Can somebody share with us the answers before I share the guide? So I am going to share the guide. Then you mark yourself. And then maybe if you wish, you will share with us the what? You will share with us the outcome. How many have you got?
I can share.
Okay, so okay, Philemon, can you share with us your answers? What is your answer
Yes.
for A? For number one.
For A, for number one, it's B. B.
Okay. Number two.
Number Number 2, it is.
What did you put as number 2?
Number 2, I wrote C.
Okay. Then number 3.
Number 3, I wrote C.
Okay. Number 4.
C.
Okay. You're doing very well. You already have 4 out of 4. Number 5.
Number 5, C. B.
Okay. Yes, you have 5 out of 5. Number 6.
A.
You have 5 out of 6. Number 7.
C.
You have 6 out of 7. Number 8.
B.
You have 6 out of 8. Number 9.
C.
You have 7 out of 9. Number 10.
C.
You have 8 out of 10. Number 11.
B.
You have 9 out of 11. Number 12.
A.
You have 10 out of 11. Number 13.
B.
You have 11 out of 13. Number 14.
C.
You have 12 out of 14. Number 15.
Number 15 is C.
Yes, you have 13 out of 15. You've done very well. So let me share the answers to other people. Okay, other people who also did the work. Let me share with you. I hope this is the guide now. Is that the guide? My guide is here. So let me share the guide so that people can see what I am talking about. So we are here. We come here. There's so many whatever. I need to close some. Let me just close some of the windows here on my, so that I can go back and I share. Okay, let me share the entire screen. Share. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. Number 1 was B. Number 2 was C. Number 3 was C. Number 4 was C. Number 5 was B. Number 6 was C. You can see number 7 was C. Number 8 was C. Number 9 was C. Number 10 was C. Number 11 was B. Number 12 was C. Number 13, it is B. Number 14, C. And number 15 also C. Okay. Now that prepares us and takes us to something else about population. In other words, here I was checking to see if you know the meanings of this population, the concepts, the meanings of these other population concepts that we mention when we are talking about population studies. What is birth rate? What is population growth? what is the death rate, all that. So let us now stop sharing, and then we go back here, and then we look at the other factors that we need to look at. So here under population, we go back, and then we share. I want to share this now. Yes. Let me share the entire screen. I share the entire screen, and then we move on. So this is what I want us to go on and look at: population, other concepts in population studies, like what is the meaning of population growth? What are the components of population or population growth? Before we look at that, let us first look at these concepts here that we talk about a lot when we are teaching people about population. So here, let me share here, not seeing my screen. Close that. Okay. Let me just share this word one here. All right, can you see that? I think you can see that. The population concepts that we normally talk about here. The first one. So, Philemon, I will ask you to just read for me these things. Population density, then we go to census, up to that whole page. Key population concepts that you're seeing, Philemon.
Philemon had gone to pick water, but let me read.
Who's reading? Let us first know. You're sharing the same gadget?
Yeah.
All right, you can go on, no problem.
Population density, the number of people living per unit area, usually per square kilometer. Then the formula is population density equals to total population divided by total land area. Then
Yes.
census, an
Yes.
official count of population carried out at regular intervals to collect data on population size, structure, and characteristics. Then
Okay.
population growth, the increase or decrease in population over time due to births, deaths, and migration. Then birth
Okay.
rates,
Mm.
the number of live births per 100 people per year in a population. Then death
Wow.
rate,
Mm.
the number of deaths per 100,
Per
the
thousand.
number of deaths per 1,000 people per year in a population. Then natural increase, the difference between birth rate and death rate in a population. The formula,
Yes.
natural increase equals to birth rate minus death
Mm.
rate.
Yes, thank you very much. So when we
Welcome.
go to population growth, then we shall be looking at these factors or these concepts in more detail. So when you talk about population increase, or let us say population growth, they're talking about the net increase. Like that's in this case, they're telling us you must compute the number of birth rates, remove the number of death rates, so that you're able to get the population growth rate. And therefore, in most cases, when you talk about population growth rate, we talk about it in terms of percentage. So you're going to realize that the percentage is normally higher. Population growth rate is higher in developing countries compared to developed what? Developed countries. And then migration, we all know that's the movement of people from one place to another, where they can either be there for permanent settlement, or sometimes it is just a temporary settlement. That is migration. There are many forms of migration. We shall be looking at them later. I think we all know we have rural, urban, we have urban, we have rural migration, but there are issues or there are factors that actually cause people to migrate. Some of these factors may be push factors that push people away from their areas of origin and then push them elsewhere. And then sometimes you have pull factors where we have people migrating because they have seen something better somewhere and therefore they are forced to do it, to migrate. And then we have sometimes e-migration with the E. You see that number 9, the movement of people out of the country. Like when people are moving to go and maybe work in Saudi Arabia, you're going to settle in USA, you're going to settle in Europe. That is e-migration. Whereas if it is I first, e-migration, where you find people moving from other places to come and settle in here. Like we have so many Chinese coming in here, we have so many Indians coming in to settle here. Yes. And then we have population structure. So is Philemon back now? Philemon is
Yeah,
not yet back.
I'm back. I'm back.
Okay, good. So let me ask someone else to read for me. I want somebody else to read. Who else wants to read? Uh-huh. We are not many here. Where is Angela? Angela, are you there? Let me check. There are so many people in attendance. I see Whitney. I see Kenzie. So who of these people wants to read for me? I choose for myself. Who's
Yes.
that? It's Kenzie now. All right. I am going
Happy.
to. So who's speaking?
I'm Habiba.
Habiba.
Speaking.
Habiba. So Habiba, I want you
Yes.
to Habiba read for me. Number 10 to number 13. Structure,
Okay, the
pyramid,
number
dependency.
10 is
Proceed.
population. Okay, population structure. The composition of the composition of a population usually shown by age and sex, often illustrated using a population pyramid. Then population pyramid, a graphical representation showing the age and sex structure of a population. Then dependency ratio, the ratio of dependents and in bracket children and the elderly to the working age population. Then number 13, expect life expectancy.
Hmm.
That's not given.
Okay. Thank you very much, Habiba. So I'm asking
All
again.
right.
So who are these people called dependents in a population? Habiba, do you have a response? Who are those people we call dependents?
Okay.
Hmm.
Let me just try. Dependents are these people who rely on other people, like they depend on something else or other people.
For,
That's how I understand it, sir.
like they are not able to, they don't generate their own income, they cannot feed themselves. So usually those are younger children and very elderly
Yes.
people. So they depend on a small
Yeah.
population of people who are working.
Yeah.
Like you may find in a family, out
Yes.
of 10 people, you may find maybe 7 of them are dependents. Yes, so they are supported by the people who are able to work and bring home money. So, in most cases in developing countries, the dependence ratio is very high. Sometimes you find a whole family where nobody's working and it's like all of them are dependents. But there are few people who must bring food in the house Those are the people who are now being depended on. Then life expectancy is the average number of years an average person will live between birth to death. Usually, the life expectancy in the developing countries is very low. I'll give you one that is the lowest, I think, is Malawi. Malawi's life expectancy is about 46. You see, Ugandan life expectancy is about 63. The life expectancy in Japan is about 80. So, what causes the life expectancy to again vary depends on very many issues. For example, you may find that here for us, our life expectancy is maybe higher than the one of Malawi, maybe because of food. Sometimes food can be one of the reasons why people die so early. Sometimes health availability of health services can also be another reason. Sometimes war can also make people to die early. Sometimes disease can make people to die very fast. So life expectancy for us here is slightly higher, but is highest in developed countries. Yes. Then mortality rate, the level of deaths in a population, including infant mortality, maternal mortality. If you look at mortality across the population structure, at birth, between 0 to 5, the mortality rate is higher or it is highest on the side of males. More young boys die before they reach the age of 5. And that remains the trend. So generally, you realize that the mortality rate varies between the females and the males. So the mortality rate is higher on the males than on the females. Then infant mortality, of course, that is now how many children will die before they are the age of 5 out of 1,000. But it is highest in developing countries. The infant mortality is highest in developing countries. Then we have the sex ratio, like how many of the population are males vis-a-vis females. You see, for every 105 females today, according to the population structure, every 105 females you see, we have 100 males behind them. So there is a slight the number of females is slightly higher than the number of males, but it's five. Then the population pressure that is now looking at this population size vis-a-vis the available resources. If the resources are less compared to the size of the population, then the pressure increases. Then you have overpopulation if the population size is bigger than the available resources. If you see congestion in schools, congestion in the road, congestion in the hospital, that shows you that there is overpopulation. Underpopulation is where you find that available resources are bigger than the size of the population. Rural urban migration, I'm sure people know that. Demography, also people know that. Population. Census, also people should be knowing that. There is a funny concept in population studies. The concept of population squeeze. I'm sure many of you have not heard about it, but we rarely talk about it at this level. Population squeeze is a time in the population where you find people are unable to get someone to marry them. Yeah? You feel you want to get married, and then even if you go to 1,000 parties, nobody can see you. Even if you give people money, they are not interested. Even if you do what? So it is a dilemma in a population where people are unable to find partners to marry them. So it is a very common it is a very common dilemma. I think many people here have people who want to get married, but nobody is coming. And if you are not careful, you can remain in that dilemma for good. Nobody wants to see what that you want to get married. So that is called population squeeze. Yes. So if you are there and you're looking for a girlfriend and nobody sees you, you are in that dilemma. And then if you are a girl and then you want a boyfriend and nobody is seeing you, you're already in that dilemma. We are praying for you that you don't stay in that dilemma for too long. Yes. Right. So let us continue with our population studies. I am hoping people are seeing what I am sharing. I am just hoping we are here. Let's proceed. Okay. Now let us look at population growth. The meaning of growth in population. Here, population growth is the increase in the number of people in a given area over time, and it is determined by looking at the difference between the birth rates and death rates, and also looking at the difference between migration, between immigration and migration. So there are two components when we're talking about population growth here. We have birth rate, or let us say natural increase, where we are looking at birth rate and the death rate. And then we have migration, where we have people coming in, people coming out, people going out. So when you're going to look at the population increase, then it's important you factor in all that birth rate, death rate, immigration, and then immigration, so that you compute the population growth rate accurately, and then you state it in percentage. Now, this percentage varies, and between the developed countries and underdeveloped countries, we are going to see. Let's see the growth rate or the growth data, population growth data between the developed and underdeveloped countries. Today, the world population is estimated to be about 8 billion people. And by 2015, we expect it will be about 10 billion. In the developing countries, this growth rate is very high. In Africa as a whole, the population growth rate is estimated to be 2.3%. So the population of Africa grows at that rate. That is high, 2.3. And in the developing countries, in the developed countries, the growth rate is much lower. You can see it is at 2%. In the developing countries, it's 2.3, whereas in the developed countries, it is only 2%. That is the population growth in the developed countries. So, the population growth, if you look at it critically, you realize that the number of people, or let us say the growth here in Africa, where we actually saw in the map that the population distribution still appears to be low, the growth rate is very high, but at the same time, the death rate is very high. And perhaps that explains why the population distribution in Africa is looking the way it looked in the map. Because very many people are born, but again, very many people are dying. But still, the growth rate remains high compared to developed one, the developed countries. So this is what it looks like. Population growth in developed countries looks like that. You see? That is what it looks like. Many developed countries now have fertility below replacement level. That's about 2.1 birth per woman, leading to very slow growth in even population decline. In some countries, the government comes in and then rewards people for producing children because they are trying to make to encourage people to produce children. In some countries, we are fighting with family planning, encouraging people not to produce, to have very big families because we are scared of the population growth one growth rate. So let us see the demographic patterns, how it looks like. This is how it looks like. Uh, for developing countries, you can see population growth in developing and developed countries. Now see what it looks like there. Let me project the table so that people can see it well. So you see, look at column number one. Mhm. We have population growth, fertility levels, future growth, and then demographic challenge. So in developing countries, this is what it looks like. Very high population growth rate, very high fertility rates, you see, and then the youth are the majority in the developing countries. Look at what it looks like in the developed countries. In the developed countries, we have the population growth is almost zero. Hmm? It is low or very close to zero. What happens? We have more older people than the younger people. And therefore, this worries many developed countries. What are they going to do to make the population sustainable? You see? Because many people are now running away from family life. And therefore, that scares most of the countries. So let us go down here and we see what we should be doing. That is all still population growth, natural increase, migration, and whatnot. So the factors that influence population growth, they are here. These factors that influence population growth, now we see them. Mm. So if I may ask, maybe before we go there, in your opinion, what are some of these factors that influence the growth of population? What are the factors that influence population growth? Uh, Remember, there's a difference between population growth and population distribution. Yes? So, what would you say are the factors that actually determine or influence population growth? Members, is religion one of them? Someone is saying, yeah, high fertility rate. Mm. Fertility rate varies. There are some areas where the fertility rate is very high, other places the fertility rate is low. But why? Yes, let me now go to the charts. People are responding here. Advanced medical service, fertility in women and women, even nutrition is also another factor. Polygamy that can be influenced by a product of culture and religion can actually affect population growth. Some religions encourage and accept polygamy, and that can affect population growth. Then you have a limited knowledge about family planning. Yes, I know people in this country who talk about family planning in public, but when they are private, they are doing the opposite. Yes. So, family planning, the acceptance is also very important. Which other factors, members? So, religion is one of them, education is another one. Sometimes the government policy is also another one. I don't know whether you have someone saying poverty. Poverty contributes significantly to rapid population. I want to understand that very well. So poor people actually have bigger families. What a contradiction. And it is true, by the way. Mhm. Right. Here, I was saying that the government here in Uganda today is actually encouraging people to have big families because of the incentives that is given to people who have children. People are going to ask how and why. Because the government gives a free education to the village people, that is enough incentive to have many children. So if the government comes out and says we are going to educate 4 of your children free from primary to whenever they stop, that is an incentive given by the government, and people are busy producing because they will not feel the weight of what? The weight of school fees. So it is true that the government is encouraging people to have more children. All right. Then I say limited knowledge about family planning. Okay, I'm seeing very good responses here. Low level of education. Many people in these developing countries drop out of school when they are still young, and the next step is to go for marriage. They start having children when they are very young, and they continue having children until until they stop. Yes, so it is true that sometimes education also can affect what? Population growth. So let's run through the factors and we see them. I hope people are seeing these factors. You can see the fertility rate, the average number of children an average woman will have throughout her lifetime. Yes, if you start early, you're going to have more children. So fertility rate is very important when you're talking about population growth rate and death rate. If the death rate is higher than the fertility rate, then the population growth rate will be lower. And if the birth rate is higher than the death rate, then the population growth rate will be higher. That is simple to understand. Here you have the death rate. We talked about that. Death rate, birth rate, infant mortality rate. If the infant mortality rate is higher, then we are also going to have a what? We're going to have a, a low population growth rate. Njalo chokando. Eh, okay. Okay. Then health services. Health services, I think here it is very simple to explain. If you have bad or no health services, it means we are going to have higher death rate, and therefore we shall have a low population growth rate. Yes. Then education. If more people go to school and they delay in school, it is going to affect their birth rate. It is also going to affect their fertility rate. So with the higher levels of education, we are going to have a low level or a low population growth rate. Whereas the opposite is true. That if we have many people who don't go to school and then education is almost not there, then the population growth rate is going to be high. Yes, that is simple. Economic factors, economic conditions determine how people plan their families. In poor economies, children are seen as labor, children are seen as security, and therefore people who are living in the poor communities or poor people tend to have bigger families because of that reason. So you look at your children, especially if they are girls, so you say they are going to marry them and then I'll be rich even if I'm old. So you're going to have many children. If they are boys, you say fine, When in my old age, I'm going to have boys who can protect me. So it's important for me to have children, many children. That is why poor people end up having bigger families because they look at children in that perspective. Then the government policy, sometimes the government can decide to limit the population growth. And sometimes the government can give an incentive, like we said. Yes, the government can decide, for example, to popularize family planning practices, and in that way, their target would be to lower the population growth rate. And sometimes the government can decide to give an incentive to people, a reward that comes if you have given birth. And then in that way, the government will be encouraging the population to grow. Mhm. Migration Migration can also affect population growth rate. Immigration increases the population growth size. Mhm. I know of many people come in this country. We don't have so many women who migrate to Uganda. Normally, the people come here, they are actually men. And when they come here, when their time for marrying comes, they end up marrying the Ugandan women. So there is a way they also play a very important role when it comes to population growth. So migration patterns determines population growth. Then lastly, we have political stability. War increases death through violence and destruction. It also causes displacement and reduces population growth. Whereas peace, on the other hand, also increases the population growth in a number of ways. So when you're talking about population distribution, remember, I am just hoping that you do not mix the factors that influence population distribution and the factors that influence population growth, because sometimes people don't get the difference between population growth and then population distribution. Yes, all those are issues that come up when we are talking about population studies. Population studies. So now, this is our last segment of the day. How can we control population growth rate? Now that we have talked about population growth, how can we actually make the population sustainable? What should we do to make the population sustainable? Yes. What should we do to make our population sustainable? What can we do to make our population sustainable? Let me see the people's response here. Discourage polygamous marriages. Yes. Okay. Discourage polygamous marriages. How are you going to do this? You make polygamous marriages illegal, or you do what to make the people not to get into polygamous marriages? There are more practical ways, job creation. Okay, we can do a lot of job creation for our people so that people don't look at making children as another job. Yeah, that is true. I think also we can invest a lot in education, improving education, especially for the girls. So you delay them from having or starting families early. Yes, sensitization of people about what? About family planning, about the dangers of having a big family. Yes, it's very important. Discourage early marriage. So if someone gets to marriage early, then it becomes illegal. In other words, you legalize, you make it illegal for someone to get married below a certain age, like it is here. If you are below 18, you are not allowed to marry. Even if you have the appetite to marry, you are not allowed. Yes. Sensitize people about family planning policies, putting a policy on the number of children a couple can have. Okay, yeah, that can also work. We can make it a policy that people should not have children beyond this. Like it one time happened in China, they had a one-child policy. So, so you only produce one, or you produce two, or you produce not beyond a certain number of children. Okay. Someone saying, someone is saying that incentives for small families. Yeah, yeah, yeah. If someone has a recommended size of family, then that person is rewarded. Yeah, you give them some incentive. For example, you can say that we are only going to educate two children per family, and suddenly you're going to see the number of children dropping to two. So if you have more than two children, we don't give you any reward. But if you have only two, we shall give you, we shall give you a reward, something like that. Then we can learn from developed countries, good practices from developed countries. We can learn from those countries and make health services accessible in rural rural areas. Very good responses. People have given me very, very good responses there. So let me share here again some of the ways we can, practical ways of regulating population growth. There are very many practical ways you can regulate population growth here. You see, promote family planning, like people said earlier. Yes, make the um, family planning services available to people. I know of many places today where family planning services are available at subsidized prices. I know of many organizations that have come in that are making these family planning services cheap and available to them. Contraceptives, educate children about them, counsel the girls about it. And I've seen cases where we have organizations that give condoms for free. Mhm. I think that is one way the government is doing that. Improve girl child education, educate the girls, make sure they remain in school so that they delay their time for starting to have children. People talked about that already. Increase access to healthcare in rural areas. Someone also talked about that. Then encourage empowerment of the women. Empower the women, see, encourage them, and then implement anti-natalist policies. Encourage large families. Anti-natalist policies discourage large families. These include incentives to smaller families, like somebody actually mentioned here. Then increase employment opportunities, especially in the rural areas. People should have access to jobs. If they do have access to jobs, then it's going to make it easier for us to make the population sustainably grow. And then improve on housing for people, improve on urban living conditions for everybody, improve on social security systems, yes, and then lastly, control child labor and improve children's rights. If you do all that, then you're going to have the population growing and it will be sustainable. It will be sustainable. Now we have just a few minutes. I want to dedicate these few minutes to people in case you have a
Excuse
question.
me, I have a question.
Yes.
How does controlling child labor regulate population growth?
Yes, you have a question. Can you please ask the question you have?
I've said that how is controlling child labor regulate population growth?
Okay, let us go back. Control child labor and improve children's rights. Let us read through that. Reducing child labor increases school enrollment for children. For example, we have had cases where you have the police, they come into an area and they see who is the maid in this house, who is the maid in this house. Is this person supposed to be in school or this person is supposed uh, to, to work? So when you're doing that, you're actually pushing more people to school. I don't know if that makes more sense, some sense to you.
Yes. Thank you.
Eh, yes. Any other question? Another question? If somebody has another question, we can ask before we wind up and close. Okay, members, in case nobody has any other question, I am going to share the copy of these notes that I have made so that people can use it for future reference. Also, I'll share the PowerPoint that I have used here so that you can also use it for future reference. And someone is asking, when is the next lesson? I think I'm going to talk to Teacher Stephen about that and we see if we can schedule at least a few more lessons. Now that the reporting date has been shifted, we are no longer reporting as we thought earlier. We still have one more week home. So I'm going to ask Teacher Stephen to reschedule the timetable so that we can finish. We can go on and then we can at least use some few days. Otherwise, you can have a good evening. Bye bye.